My name is Tanae Gray, and I am the Director of Professional Development at the Digital Youth Network. Welcome to the fourth of 5 workshops for the Chicago City of Learning initiative. The name of this workshop is Badge Mapping and Planning, and the goals for the workshop are threefold. The first goal is participants will enter program data into the Chicago City of Learning website. The second goal is participants will finalize program badges for their summer programming. And the last goal is participants will understand how to use the Chicago City of Learning Spring-Summer Toolkit. Participants will also be introduced to the Chicago City of Learning website where all summer programming is housed. For this workshop, we'll be focusing on 2 connected learning principles, equity and shared purpose. We'll be highlighting 2 organizations that will be demonstrating how these principles get carried out in their programs with the young people they work with. So let's take a look at the video.
CCOL is an interest-driven program that exposes youth to STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math challenges in a fun and engaging environment. When I think about why equity is such an important value to have, what I always come back to is the notion that in this country we fundamentally believe that education is the way that we level the playing field, that we create opportunities for everyone, and especially those who may not have the opportunities themselves. We wanted it to be readily accessible in a wide variety of locations. We are in public libraries, youth centers, in after school, and as well in class or during school periods as well.
Okay, song working, yeah. Oh, let's see if you can hear it.
One of the things that we think about in terms of equity is, are we creating opportunities for all students to participate in a way that they find personally engaging?
This is the MakerBot 3D printer that we're using.
We are doing the robot, and right now I'm doing the programming.
You have to make like gel beads using a bunch of different materials. We've got to try getting our car from this side to that side of the tunnel.
We're constantly collecting and analyzing the data that comes off of the CCOL website, and we can then take that upon ourselves as designers to try to close whatever gaps we're identifying. So if there's some segment of the population, like girls, that were not engaging effectively, or that try a challenge but only go to level 1 or 2 and then they quit, we take that upon ourselves as a failure of our design, not a failure of the kit.
I like the SketchUp program where you get to design like dream homes and glasses and bracelets and such, just because you get to kind of add your own touch to things that have already been created.
CCOL is youth-centric and youth-driven. It's not adult-mediated. Not having to subject themselves to one person's view of the world, I think, also contributes pretty strongly to the notion of an equitable experience for all participants.
That's been kind of the cool part, is we don't have the expertise to tell the kids, here's what you need to do, follow this step, follow this step. So it really lends itself to the problem-solving aspect of it, because I don't have the answers.
We're like 10, 11, and like we're getting to experience hands-on stuff, like just like engineering.
It doesn't matter how old you are, what grade you're in, what your GPA is. When you're in a CCOL studio, you're only as good as the challenges that you've accomplished. Often people think of equity as we want the same thing for all students. And I actually think when you look at it through the connected learning lens and take the idea of interest-driven learning seriously, then you quickly realize that equity doesn't mean the same thing for all kids. It means taking all kids' interests equally seriously.
The National Veteran Art Museum was originally founded in 1981 by a group of Vietnam veterans who made artwork in response to their experience of war. The National Veterans Art Museum education program, our big goal has been finding ways to reach out to youth, using art as a vehicle for creating a deeper sense of meaning to war itself, and helping youth kind of build a relationship with things that normally can be looked at as something outside of their realm of understanding. Predominantly what happens is youth come in and they're like, oh, it's a museum, and there's sort of this like the hush and the looking. It's very timid and quiet in the beginning. Like once they start getting their hands into stuff, once they find out that they can ask difficult questions or they can talk directly to an artist or directly to a veteran, it loosens up and the relationship changes from this kind of quiet, separated observation to an engaged learning experience.
My buddy Daryl's group, they took off first. And then all holy hell broke out. Overnight they snuck in or came out of spider holes or whatever. And it was like the first group that moved had my buddy Daryl took a round right through his head and died instantly. So that's 1 down out of 5.
Connected learning is, for me, the opportunity to literally connect a young student with someone else who has had a life experience that they might identify with. It's interesting because the majority of youth will talk about that connection between their lives and what they see here are either youth who have experienced violence, youth who have family that have served, or youth that are in the process of signing up and enlisting and becoming a part. And the shared purpose starts coming in where we're really working on creating a forum where youth can respond to the artwork that's in our collection, but also post their own artwork and build out their own connections. And so we get a chance to put their artwork right next to that of a veteran, and that conversation that happens becomes very meaningful.
How many of you have family, no father, relatives, friends that have been in the service? It's the most I've ever had.
It was nice to see a perspective of like a soldier coming home and not just hearing about it through movies and books and stories. I think it's nice to hear an actual perspective from it.
I think you got to think about the individuals more than which side it is. You have to think about each soldier and that it's human beings out there.
When you make art, on some level, you're leaving a message that you've observed in the world or something that you want to share. And so I think that anyone that makes art, that right there could be the common purpose. And in the same way, that's what this entire museum is. We house all these stories and all these different people who have come to us with some message or some memory or concept that they want to put on display or have preserved. So I think we have two very different groups that come together with this shared purpose, that they have something that they want to be heard and that they want to share with others.
All right, so first we're going to start off just talking about the site. Have you guys seen the site? ChicagoCityofLearning.org. This is kind of where all the information you add from your organizations or your programs will be found by the parents and by the learners. So here on our Explore page, this is kind of the main page, and what happens is you can enter what you're interested in. You can then narrow it down or only select certain topics. Like you can say, I just want design and making, and then you can say the area of Chicago where you want to narrow down the programs to, or actually enter your zip code. So we're just gonna give a quick example. And what you see here are a lot of Chicago Park District and After School Matter programs. But this is how some of your information is going to be reflected. So what they have there are their program logos. It's their org logo, but they're a bigger organization. So That was just a bulk thing. But what you want to have here is kind of a logo or an image that kind of represents that program, so that the kid or the parent knows, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. I might like this. The name of the organization or the name of the program, a short description, probably 100 characters or less, but then you'll see the full one. And then it kind of shows what the org is and then the different categories it falls into. And so all of these things are things for you to think about as you enter your program information. And then here is the full workshop page, where again it shows the full description that you've entered. And then up top, it shows if you enter a registration link, it gives them that registration, so there's an actionable item. If there's a registration, boom, they can hit register. And the learn more is just like the program URL. So if you have a URL for your program or even for your org, it would go there. And this is kind of, all decision-making information. So what you see is when it starts, when it ends, what day it's on, the time, the location, a map, so they can quickly see, and then some workshop information. And then below is some workshop contact information. If it was, and again, this is a little bit generic because it's after school matters, but if it was yours, you might have a specific person in charge of this particular program. And so all of this is kind of the stuff that we're going to be entering on the back end. And so for those of you that haven't logged in, when you get your invitation, you just go and you make your password and then you'll log in. And you'll see a screen like this, which is kind of the org screen, where you get all the programs that you've entered, all the org members that have been added and have access to either at the org level or at the program level, and then the badges that are associated with your program. And that's there, but it hasn't started yet. I don't think we even talked about badging yet, right? The first screen you guys are going to hit upon is adding a program. And so when we add a program, so a program is kind of like a placeholder for a bunch of different scheduled workshops. So Digital Youth Network has a program called Digital Divas. And so we would enter the information here. And so what this is showing is kind of breaking down, like, again, what I'm about to explain, but it just says that the program is kind of a placeholder, and then you actually have to schedule your program, which we're calling a workshop, but it's a scheduled program. And then it talks about that workshop or event page that I just showed you guys. So you would enter the information for like Digital Divas here, and it's very little information for that program. It's just the name, the audience age range, the categories, description, and a logo. And you can add specific program administrators if you want. You don't have to do that the first time through. Let me show you the categories. And then you can pick up to 2 categories. I think there's 11 total, so you can pick any 2 categories. And so once you make a program, you can schedule a workshop, and it's just a scheduled program. And so what that means is you've said, I have a program, and I'm going to keep using Digital Divas. I have a program, it's taking place this summer, or this winter, or next year, or whatever it is. So it's the kind of the actionable item. And so I went into the view screen. I actually just wanted to show you guys the actual form. If you want to change them, you can always change. You can change it for this particular instance of that program. And so a good example of that is like Chicago Park District have baseball or T-ball. And so they may just have one program called T-ball, but they would break it up into like a 2 to 4 range, and then a 4 to 6 range. And so you may change like the description or the audience age range based on that. But they both fall under that baseball or T-ball program. The program is it's kind of a weird thing, because for smaller organizations it doesn't matter as much, or it may not matter as much. But that's kind of the example. If you have different sites or you have different versions of the same thing. And so that kind of plays in if you have a program manager that just handles baseball, they could be in charge of that, and they can handle just baseball. And so here you can add that program image that shows up on those search results. And so there you want it to be something that is probably not your org logo. It's something that kind of, you know, says what it's about and what they can kind of, the parent or the kid can read into. The contact information, what happens is that the parents are searching, they find something, they want to be able to say, oh, is it still open? Is it still available? How do I figure out more? Same thing with the registration link. If you need to register for this particular program, you want to provide this link, they can go there and see, you know, how to register and if they can register. But it's not, so this is not required. Your registration link is not required. The registration deadline is not required. But the same thing, this would help them out by showing, and it would, so the registration link would show them, you know, when they can register, but also, or the registration deadline would show them when they have to register by, but also your program would go away if that registration deadline has passed from the search results. The price, free or other, basically, which is something that you can filter. I didn't show that, but that's something you can filter your search results by. And so the where, going to kind of what you were speaking of, you can enter your program, you can enter your building, but then your address. And so when you enter your address, we create that nice map and then break it down by area of Chicago as well. Start date, end date. Again, this will help both the parent decide if they should further pursue it, but also it'll hide from the search results if it's already over. And the same for start time and end time. So I mean, again, all of this is like actionable information. So like when I'm looking for something for my 4-year-old, I'm like, his Monday is open. I want something at 9 to 12 on Mondays. Find me something. And again, you can assign someone, if you just wanted someone at this level for this particular thing, you can add them to this. So like the activity manager in this case is kind of like, if it's the digital youth, the digital divas, if it's at DePaul, Jim may be the manager for the one at DePaul, but then Asia may be the manager for the one that's on the north side. And so this kind of ties into like badges again. So this would be their roster of kids. Kids that went here, they would know these kids and they could give those kids badges. And so one thing I didn't, so there are workshops, you can schedule workshops and you can schedule events. And events tend to be a one-time thing, and it can be related to that program, but it tends to be a one-time thing. Like it's happening this day. Like Destination Chicago is May 10th, so that may be considered an event. So that's really the only difference between workshops and events. But then here's kind of the view. After you've entered all your information, here's the view of that information, kind of the summary of it, so you can see if it's right or wrong or whatever. And then again, it all reflects both on this workshops page and then in the search results, which you can filter by free and paid, by the age ranges, and there's a lot of information there. So ultimately, it could be, you know, kind of spliced up a bunch of different ways. So you want to make sure you enter all the information that's relevant and that makes sense to you and your program.
I'm doing the civic communicator badge. Okay, here, you need to, this community, here, take this. You need to fill it out based on what they're going to do. And each individual program lead fill out one based on the badge they're going to do. I would like to say that they can, but I think that they will get confused with, I'm not setting this for a group though. This is a group schedule. This is individual schedules. So can they do it individually?
Working with the badging process has been very interesting for me because this is the first year that we're doing it, and we tried to figure out a way to make it valuable to the young people, because when we surveyed the young people, they were kind of like, well, what's it for? We don't care, you know, that type of thing. So we have to get excitement around it in order for them to get excitement. So going through this process is allowing me to be able to articulate how this is going to benefit them in the future. That's what they want to know. What is this for? Why should I do it? And the process has been really good. Today I feel like I had this like shining light that came across. I was like, I finally get it. I finally see how to make it relate to our organization, just because we do some non-traditional programming and trying to make sure that it's simple It's not something that's complicated for the students or their parents to understand, and I got it, and I was so excited that I got it today.
Today at this badge workshop, we looked at the CCOL website, and I've been a part of CCOL since its inception, I guess, so it's only in its second year. And what I find interesting is that this website now is very well organized. You can search for different programs, different locations of programs, if they're free, if it's paid for, different age groups. And last year that was not the case. I think all the organizations were just thrown up there. Not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just, you know, it was what happened. But this year, I think we're really working to be organized. It's really also helping us to think through what categories our organizations are supposed to be in, where our programs are supposed to be at, and what we're supposed to be targeting. So I think we're making amazing progress this year, and I'm excited to see what we'll be doing in 3 to 5 years from now.